We have all had that one stadium pulse moment, whether it be taking a test you hadn't studied for, meeting your girlfriend's parents for the first time, or forgetting about your taxes until July. Now imagine that feeling, but in front of 15,000 screaming fans, and you have to perform. College basketball arenas were built to break opponents with the noise and the energy. But today, we're looking at the times the toughest arenas in college basketball got exposed in the modern era. To start the list off, we are heading to Allen Fieldhouse, home of the Kansas Jayhawks. Under just the Bill Self era, Kansas has gone 343-21 at Allen Fieldhouse, winning 94% while playing at home. And since its opening in 1955, a winning percentage of 86%. But on a day after New Year's in 2021, Allen Fieldhouse witnessed its worst home loss. Number 3 Kansas was facing number 8 Texas. Kansas boasted a lineup of Jalen Wilson, Christian Braun, and Ochai Agbaji, whereas Texas had one of the best teams in Shaka Smart's tenure. Winning in Lawrence is considered one of the toughest road games in college basketball, and where the Jayhawks were riding a 13-home winning streak. Now all of that in mind, Allen Fieldhouse wasn't at full stadium pulse. That's because arenas across the country were still dealing with COVID rules, and there was only about 2,500 in attendance for this ranked matchup. Nevertheless, playing on the road in Kansas is never easy. But this Longhorns team wasn't fazed one bit before the opening tip, as Texas jumped to a 37-29 halftime lead, where they held Kansas to 32% from the field, which included being 1 for 7 from the three-point range. Then where Texas kept on the gas the entire second half, UT shot 57% from the floor, and where Kansas got worse, shooting 29%. The result was an 84-59 blowout. Kansas didn't get the game below 20 points in the final 8 minutes of play. 5 Longhorns finished in double figures, led by Courtney Ramey's 18 points. This 84-59 win over Kansas matched the most lopsided win by an opponent in the history of Allen Fieldhouse. This was also just the second time Texas had won at Allen Fieldhouse in program history, and it was the highest ranked opponent they had beaten on the road since number 2 Kansas in 2011. January 2nd, 2021 showed one of the few times college basketball's most intimidating venues looked anything but. The next legendary arena we are heading to is Cameron Indoor Stadium, where the Duke Blue Devils play. Entering March 3rd, 2012, Duke owned a 754-150 all-time record in the building, while Mike Krzyzewski had won nearly 88% of his home games since his hiring in 1980. However, last game of the season in 2012 was versus rival North Carolina, which proved to be Duke's worst home loss at Cameron Indoor. Number 4 Duke versus number 6 UNC. Both sides were filled with NBA talent, names such as Harrison Barnes, Seth Curry, Tyler Zeller, and Austin Rivers, to name a few of the 13 that would step onto an NBA court who played in this game. Not to forget, this game was also for the ACC regular season title and the number 1 seed in the conference tourney, so the stakes were upped even more. The first half though, Duke was colder than ice, if that's even possible. UNC had a lead of 22-5 just 7.5 minutes in because Duke missed their first 7 3-pointers and had 2 7-minute field goal droughts in the opening half. It grew into a 20-point lead with 2 minutes remaining, and before you knew it, Duke sat at halftime losing 48-24. This 24-point gap was their deepest halftime deficit ever at Cameron Indoor. The famous Cameron Crazies, known for turning the building into one of the most hostile environments in sports, had been taken completely out of the game. To Duke's credit, after halftime it looked a little better for the Blue Devils. They closed in on the second half for a 75-64 score on a Miles Plumlee free throw with 6 minutes left. UNC slammed the door on that comeback quickly though, as North Carolina closed out the game, leading to the final score of 88-70 upset win. 3 Tar Heels finished with a double-double, first time since 2003, with Kendall Marshall leading the way, having 20 points and 10 assists. On the day when the ACC regular season was on the line, the magic of Cameron Indoor never arrived for Coach K and the team. Just 25 minutes down the road is team number 3 at the Dean Smith Center, home to the North Carolina Tar Heels. For the first 33 years of games in the Dean Smith Center, UNC won a crazy 414-72, or winning 85% of home games. And in January 2019, the Tar Heels were looking to add to this impressive number with a matchup against Louisville. The first game on this list where the visitor, Louisville, was unranked, with North Carolina being 12th in the country. Led by Hall of Fame coach Roy Williams, he had a team consisting of Cam Johnson, Kobe White, Nasir Little, and Luke May, facing a bunch of nobodies. Outside of Jordan Wara, I'll be honest, I couldn't have named a single player on this Louisville roster. As well as days before, Louisville were the ones who had just lost to a Pitt team that was on a 23-game ACC losing streak. Not a good look. So it should have been an easy ACC home opener, right? Well, you would have been totally wrong. Louisville came out scorching, making 54% of their shots compared to North Carolina's 37%. The Cardinals also knocked down 5 more three-pointers than the Tar Heels, taking a surprising 43-34 lead into halftime. Things only got worse for Carolina after the break. The Tar Heels never found their rhythm. Field goal percentage dropped 7% and making only one of their 8 three-point attempts. Meanwhile, Louisville scored another 40 points after halftime while dominating the glass and eliminating UNC's transition game. UNC students and fans were stunned when the clocks hit 0 as the final score read 83-62 Louisville. The 21-point defeat was Roy Williams' worst home loss in 16 seasons at North Carolina and the second largest home loss in Dean Smith Center history. Leading the upset was UConn transfer Stephen Anak, who posted season highs in 17 points and 11 rebounds, with Dwayne Sutton adding 17 points, 10 rebounds, and 7 assists, finishing just short of a triple-double as Louisville delivered one of the most shocking home losses North Carolina had ever seen. Fourth team on this list is up in East Lansing, Michigan, where Michigan State plays in the Breslin Center. Up to this point, I've talked about high-ranked teams playing in their tough home arenas and losing. This time for MSU is only partially like that, because in the 2021 season, Michigan State had one of their worst seasons ever under Tom Izzo. Finished the season at a 15-13 record, suffering multiple blowouts throughout the season, including by 30 points at Rutgers, 25 at Minnesota, and 19 at Michigan. But unranked Michigan State's worst loss came at home versus number 15 Iowa in February of 2021. Just like the previous Kansas-Texas game I talked about earlier, the Breslin Center wasn't operating at full strength. Due to the COVID restrictions, the typical 16,000 fans dwindled down to a couple hundred. Despite the lack of an atmosphere, Michigan State actually did a solid job containing Iowa's biggest stars, holding the Player of the Year, Luka Garza, to his worst offensive performance in 2 years, and future NBAer Keegan Murray to 8 points each. Unfortunately, the trio of Joe Wieskamp, Jack Nunge, and Connor McCaffrey had something else to say as they scored 55 points for the Hawkeyes, and where the team ambushed MSU from the three-point line as the Hawkeyes shot 52% behind the arc. As a result, neither half became competitive for the Spartans, who only shot 35% from the field the entire game. The Hawkeyes rolled to an 88-58 victory and at one point led by as many as 34 points. Never a good sign when 3 opposing players nearly match your entire team's scoring output by themselves. Michigan State walked off the court with the most lopsided loss in Tom Izzo's 26-year career in charge of the program and becoming the worst loss in the Breslin Center since its opening in 1989. Looking back, it's surprising that more programs didn't set records for worst home losses during the crowd-restricted season, when many of the toughest arenas didn't have the same home court advantage they normally do. The final team on my list plays at the Mackey Arena in West Lafayette, Indiana, with this being the Purdue Boilermakers. Purdue has been one of college basketball's premier programs in recent years. Most recently, this past 25-26 season saw a very successful year for the Boilermakers. A 30-9 total record, winning the Big Ten tourney, and advancing to the Elite Eight. The Boilermakers began the season as the number 1 team in the country, starting 8-0 with wins over ranked Alabama and Texas Tech. However, one early season opponent gave Purdue a historic defeat at home. In December 2025, 10th ranked Iowa State traveled to West Lafayette to face number 1 Purdue. This matchup had everything: multiple all-conference players on both teams, 2 great head coaches, and an arena that boasted a 724-150 home record, or winning 82.3% of games before Iowa State came to town. First half was actually close, unlike some previous blowouts I've talked about. 35-31 in favor of the Cyclones, with there being 7 lead changes. The second half proved to be the exact opposite. Iowa State sprinted to an 11-0 run to start the half and never looked back. Iowa State clobbered Purdue 46-27 en route to the final score of 81-58, an unlikely outcome in one of college basketball's most intimidating environments. The Boilermakers committed 15 turnovers and shot just 22% from 3, making this the difference in the game. But that 23-point margin is tied for the largest home loss for a number 1 ranked team in college basketball history, and it's just the 4th time that a number 1 ranked team has lost by 20 points or more on its home floor. The sold-out Mackey Arena crowd sat in disbelief after witnessing one of the most stunning home defeats ever suffered in the past 30 years. All of these arenas built their reputations by making opponents feel that stadium pulse. But every once in a while, a team walks into college basketball's toughest environments and proves it's actually not that hard to win.
If you wouldn't mind hitting the like button, the subscribe button, and hitting the bell notifications. Thank you.